Hi, I'm Robbie, and this is my story in seven. My story starts right here in Owensboro, Kentucky. I was born and raised here. My parents, they were both divorced by the time I was 3 years old. However, both were still very present in my life. Both still are very present in my life to this day. Both are Christians. I was raised in a Christian home. We were in church every Sunday night, Sunday morning, Wednesday night. Basically, anytime the doors were open, we were in church. I'd given my life to Christ in my teen years, and was very involved in my church youth group throughout those years. Pretty much just a normal, very bland teen childhood life. So where my life kind of starts to derail and go off the tracks a little bit is when I get into my 20s. So we fast forward into my 20s. By this time, I'd pretty much stopped going to church, except for the the holidays, your Christmas, Easter, the occasional service that my parents wanted me to go to, just to kind of keep them happy at that point in time. I was spending most of my weekends partying. If I wasn't playing music on a barroom stage, I was drinking in a barroom crowd, or I was doing drugs in the back room, going to many after parties. Things of that nature. My 20s were just full of debauchery and stupidity, to say the least. I was so far removed from God at that point in time in my life that I don't think I could hear the Holy Spirit's voice if it had a megaphone yelling in my ear at that point in time. So I was pretty much my entire 20s, all of my 20s. Started to slow down on the debauchery and stupidity a little bit, but by the time I was into my late 20s and early 30s, that had kind of slowed down, and I was looking at that point to settle down. Still wasn't in church, still didn't go to church, wasn't really a thought on there in my mind at that point in time. I had at that point in time found a woman I was ready to settle down with. We had got engaged to be married. We had built a house together, and everything seemed to be going well. And that's when God kind of gave me a big gut punch. And at 32 years old, I was diagnosed with stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and was told at that point in time in my life that I had a 50% chance of survival. So I was either going to live or die. And that was a pretty big hit to take at 32 years old. And especially being as far removed from God as I was at that point in time in my life, I didn't quite know how to take it. So yeah, we were at the cancer diagnosis.
Mm-hmm. And you were getting ready to talk about your treatment.
Yeah. So at age 32, I was diagnosed with stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and was given a 50% chance of living at that point. And being told that without having Christ in your life at that point, or without being so far removed from Him, without being able to even hear His voice, was a very staggering thing to hear. And then if we fast forward a little bit, right after hearing that, I get in to about my 3rd round of chemo, and then this person I built my life with and was looking at marrying had told me at that point that she did not love me anymore and wanted to no longer be a part of my life. So she had left at that point. So here I am sitting in a big house that we had just built together by myself with cancer, and I was angry. I was very angry at God. I got very mad at God and spent some time yelling, screaming, and crying, and all kinds of things. But ultimately, God just wrapped me in His arms and told me He was there. And it broke me. It broke me down, and He said, I'm here. I've not gone anywhere ever. I've always been here. And believe it was at that point in my living room that night that I knew I had to get my life back right with Christ, because I'd been gone away from Him for far too long. So at that point in time, I contacted a friend of mine who was a pastor. His name is Kenny Rager, and we had, he had pastored a church here in town called Life Community at that time. I went and talked to him, and we had conversations about God. We had conversations about the cancer, about my life, and about what I was going through. He prayed with me on multiple occasions, and I felt peace. And there was finally a time in my life that I felt peace and joy back in my life was after praying and spending some time with God, and realizing that without Him, I was going to die. And so it was at that point in time that I realized that I needed Him. So now if we fast forward a few more years down the line, I had went through 7 rounds of chemo. Currently to this day still sit cancer free. Going on 5 years since 2018. And it is no doubt in my mind that without Christ, I would be dead. Through this all as well, Christ has brought me a wonderful woman back through this. I'm currently married to the love of my life, a God-fearing Christian woman, and our life has since been very joyful and peaceful, and there's no life without Christ. I don't know what else to put.